Cathay have always been around, lurking in the shadows as this mystical nation, a people of the Eastern world that have never really truly been explored or realized within the Warhammer fantasy universe. They were first mentioned back in the early editions of Warhammer in the 1980s, but despite this they were never fully formed, especially with any units of their own or even within the lore of the world. But that ends now. With the upcoming game of Total War Warhammer 3, we have finally got our first trailer, and look at the people of Imperial Cathay. Of course, it is no surprise to anyone that these guys are based on ancient Chinese history and legend. Being the biggest nation in the world of Warhammer, they are the Dragonborn who can take on the form of humans if they so desire. The leaders are dragons, emperors that rule the cities in their incredible forms, ruling the people below them. The animals found in this nation of Cathay are like no others found elsewhere in the New or Old World, mostly being down to it being such a desolate and dangerous place to get to. Weijin is the great city of Cathay, containing the legendary Paradise Gardens, the Temple of Two Moons, and the mystic River Souls. Yep, I can't lie, they kind of are some quite generic names, but the city has Skaven pits under them, so there's that, I guess. Imagine you're just chilling, sitting in your mystic River of Souls and having a wash, and all of a sudden you feel wiry fur brush against your leg. Then you're dragged into the rat-infested layer beneath, and yeah, that kind of just sounds like a normal Wednesday afternoon. The problem with Cathay and trying to look into their background and the lore is, well, there's not that much of them, and whilst they sound incredible, very little is actually known about the faction. Is this because they are so mysterious that they haven't been truly discovered? Well, it's probably just because Games Workshop haven't actually got down to writing it out and filling out the gaps, since there's actually no real army models at this point. But hey, with them being confirmed to be coming into Total War Warhammer 3, Creative Assembly and Games Workshop are trying to realize that creation together. We're going to get them in the game, and hopefully in the future we're going to get some actual models of Grand Cathay, and that will be incredible. Of course, we'll also get the lore that will be written out as the game releases, and this is something that we haven't seen before, a new faction that has come to the video games before the actual models. So what are these fellas good at then? They are a very well-rounded and interesting faction when it comes to army types and troops, using a mix of war machines, cavalry, rank spears, and flying beasts. However, most of their combat prowess and tactic relies upon a good mix of holding positions with heavy infantry and dealing large amounts of damage with spells and artillery, using magicians and monks in order to be the real hard hitters on the battlefield. Oh, and who can forget the Dragon Emperor and Empress, and of course their daughters that seem to be able to do a bit of damage when they want to. The Grand Cathay are a bit of a different faction. Whilst they are mostly humans and they are ruled over by these Dragonborn, as mentioned, other races have made their way into the mountains, such as the aforementioned Skaven, hiding into cities and taking advantage of any victims they possibly can. Also, the Greenskins and Goblins have managed to tangle themselves up alongside ogres in the mountain ranges to integrate themselves within the Imperial Cathay, still having power over certain places in the east. So we get it. They're based off China and very much going to be a new special faction, not really explored in depth by Games Workshop at this point in time. So how on earth are they going to be implemented into Warhammer 3? Well, as I mentioned, CA and Games Workshop are working together on this, so this won't be a Games Workshop interpretation and a CA interpretation. This will be the official lore of Cathay as it is released into Warhammer 3. We got our first teaser and hint back in February when the initial trailer and announcement for Total War Warhammer 3 came out. While that trailer did focus on the Kislev and the Demons of Chaos, we did see a map that was indicated towards Grand Cathay, perhaps a plan to gain them as allies to help the humans from the invasion of the chaos beneath. But with the release of a new trailer yesterday, what does it now tell us about their inclusion in the next title by Creative Assembly? You'll be able to play as the Dragon Prince and Princesses within the game. I'm assuming they'll have similar skills to many other lords and leaders within the Total War Warhammer games. It will be interesting to see if you're going to be able to switch between the dragon and human forms and how this works in the mechanic of the battles, but we know these leaders are able to do that in Warhammer lore, so how that's implemented is going to be very exciting. The faction itself is said to be defensive, which we can see from this trailer, as spawns of chaos are stepping onto their land with terracotta soldiers that come to life, and my my god, these guys look awesome. Assuming they have similar skills and weaknesses to something like that of the giants from the first Warhammer, but with a touch more armor and weapon skill. A side note on that one, anyone else recognize those animations from Three Kingdoms, or is that just me? At the start of the trailer, we can see, of course, the gorgeous landscapes and architecture that's being worked on to represent this Chinese-inspired nation, with flying beasts in the sky and, of course, heavily armored spears on the ground. Now, to the left of the spears, these look to be gunpowder troops, which I wasn't too sure about until the next scene where we get to see a different angle, and you can clearly see some sort of hand cannon or fantasy blunderbuss type weapon, along with, my god, is that a bronze dragon cannon? That looks like it's going to be able to do some damage. Being pulled by an ox, this sort of mobile artillery is going to be the staple of your army to pound the enemy from distance, along with magic and steel. And then the slow look up, a pan from a lowly soldier to a terracotta warrior, still and dormant, waiting to be called for war, which of course we do get to see later on in the action in this reveal trailer. I can't get over how gorgeous the detail of this army is. The tassels, the bright colors. It's something that we don't actually get to see that often in war games. Everyone's so gritty and dingy, but Chinese culture always seems to bring something so vibrant and such beauty and intricate designs, even on things so brutal and bloody like armor and weapons of war, forging them in detailed fashions and being able to completely juxtapose chaos and the destruction alliances that we've seen in the Warhammer games in the past. In addition, there's nothing like a good old airship, with men and women loading up barrels of what I'm assuming are gunpowder, ready to be dropped on the heads of enemies who are unfortunate enough to stray too close. And then the battle commences. It is a fray of gunpowder, magic, and hand-to-hand combat. Solid infantry formations being backed up by artillery on the walls and the magic of the heroes on the front. But when all seems to be swaying the way in the invaders, when the defenders start falling, the defender of the Dragon Emperor, who has been looking over the battle the whole time, decides it is her time to enter, transforming in an Assassin's Creed eagle dive from human to beast. And this is the end of the trailer. I think this really, for me, is the main draw of the faction comes in, seeing all this action and pitting them against any invader. Grand Cathay looks to be such a varied and unique faction, whilst taking a lot of inspiration from Chinese culture, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of stuff that we see in Three Kingdoms that has been sort of ramped up and utilized in this faction. There isn't anything in the Warhammer games that has been done to a similar extent, but it does make me wonder. I can't lie. Cathay, especially in this trailer, and from what I've been reading about the lore, seem incredibly powerful, and even in the little lore that they do have, never have they truly been invaded to the point of no return. Whilst, yes, okay, they might have a bit of a rat problem under their cities, they seem to be very powerful and very good at defending what they have. They've got their own equivalent, the Great Wall of China, which has never really been breached by any other army. So when we get a Mortal Empires type thing, with all the Warhammer games 1, 2, and 3 all put together, with every faction that you can then fight against each other, imagine Cathay going up against Bretonia, or even the Greenskins to some extent. I'm sure, of course, Creative Assembly will balance this to hell, and it will probably be a really hard task to get these to work together. But my god, just from the trailers and just from the lore and factions themselves, this does seem to be somewhat of a one-sided fight. But let me know what you think. Personally, for me, I think this is one of the best and most hype-inducing trailer that Creative Assembly have brought out ever, really, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. I do apologize, this video is a little late. I know it came out yesterday, but I feel like I'm always playing a little bit of catch up with the Total War stuff, as all the other Total War dedicated channels got to look at the trailer before it was actually released, so then they can make their videos to release at the same time as the official one came out. But unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity, and it's not the end of the world. I don't mind too much. It just means that it's going to take me a day or so longer to prepare my content, so as long as you understand, that's all good for me. But please leave your comments down below on your thoughts on Grand Cathay and what we can see from the trailer and how you're going to be able to utilize them in Total War Warhammer 3. But leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, leave a dislike if you didn't. But until then, I will see you in the next one.